Welcome, everyone. We are keeping going on this Ekadashi series to celebrate and honor and explore and dive deeply into the qualities of a pure devotee as emulated, as shown to us by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So again, I'm here with my good friend Siddhanta Prabhu. And we are going to be exploring, which number is it? I know it's He is Friendly.
Yes, quality number 24.
24, we're
So
getting...
2 more after this. We're winding down, ending the year, or hopefully with a bang. Hopefully each Ekadashi is a bang for everyone. And
oh, it's been such a great honor to be with you. And I just want to mention to our audience that you know, you're in good company. I keep meeting people. I'm back in India, by the way. I was in New York for our previous recordings and our broadcasts, and now I'm back in India in Mayapur, and I'm meeting people all the time that that say, "Hey, I saw that. I love it." You know? So all to our audience, you're all in very good company.
All right. Well,
and
thanks for the
more
feedback.
people.
It's good to know. I never know who's watching and who's
Oh,
listening.
there's a lot of good feedback we're getting. At least I get. I meet people say, "Hey, I saw you."
Well, hopefully they can share it with their friends. You know, that's love.
Please do.
You know.
Please do.
So we encourage people.
And this series is, although we're doing it this year, this has life going on. This is something to revisit. Like right. I regularly keep going back to the memories in general, and just, you know, I go back and just see them again and again.
Yeah,
you know,
they're kind of they're ever fresh.
Yeah. So
well, today we're going to discuss quality number 24. He is friendly. The guru, of course, is heavy. That's the meaning of guru, but he is a teacher, but at the same time, he's also personal, and he shows his friendly side, his personal nature. And today we're going to explore 3 aspects of that friendly nature. The first is going to be broken down by his ability to be friendly with the general public. The second group of anecdotes or stories that we'll hear that give example to Prabhupada's friendliness will be his experience and his dealings with his disciples as a friend.
Yes.
And then the third, one last story will end up with Prabhupada being a friend to children. So it's a classic story. It's a crossover from the first quality that we discussed. He is kind to everyone. But it's good to refresh and to remind ourselves of that particular incident, which is a classic. I keep repeating that word, but it's a good one to remember and to share with others. So today we're going to have 9 stories.
Wonderful.
From Garuda, Jagajivan, Gaur Hari. That will be the first segment. The next segment will be Chaya Devi Dasi, Yasasvini Devi Dasi, Ravindra Swarup, Chinmayi Shripati Das, and then the last one will be from Kishore. We've heard once before from the UK. So let's get started, and we'll discuss on the other side these 3 stories about Prabhupada being friendly to the general public.
Great.
So there we were, you know, about 20, 25 of us walking up and down a parking lot that would have a little bit of an incline. No one was in the parking lot except for our cars, because everyone else was smart enough to know that the park was not open. So we would walk up and down. We would go up the incline, and then Prabhupada would turn around, and we'd follow him back down. This would go on for 20, 30, 40 minutes. I don't know how long. And probably we would be chanting and we'd stop and talk sometimes. But the thing about the parking lot is you heard Prabhupada's cane because the parking lot was gravelly. So you could hear, that's pretty much all you could hear, plus Prabhupada's voice or the devotees, doing their japa when Prabhupada was not talking. But the event that really stuck out in my mind is how a jogger was coming in the opposite direction. A man, I remember, he was wearing all white, shorts, whites, and he was jogging, and the jogger, who was going slowly, said, "Good morning," looking at Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, "Good morning to you," something like that. And I remember looking at the devotees who were surprised that Prabhupada didn't say, something like Hare Krishna or, some kind of more sacred greeting of some kind. But what this reminded me of is how Prabhupada was a perfect gentleman. And that was how Prabhupada defined a devotee in that famous news interview down in Gainesville. How can you tell a devotee when you see a devotee? Prabhupada said, you will know by the fact that he is a perfect gentleman. And I'm assuming that he also meant a perfect lady as well.
I remember we went out with Prabhupada, and, as is common, some man said, "Buenos dias," in Spanish to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada asked Sri Dayananda Maharaj, what is he saying? He said, "Oh, this is a good day" in Spanish. And so Prabhupada said, "Buenos dias," in Spanish. He said that. So Prabhupada began his Spanish speaking at that point. Buenos dias, he said. So you didn't know Prabhupada spoke Spanish, did you? Yeah, but you see the new things. Buenos dias. I was very surprised. I was very impressed. Because he said it, and the correct pronunciation was perfect, He was a great linguist, Prabhupada.
So Prabhupada was picked up by this fellow Lou Gottlieb in the city in a Volvo, and Lou told me the story that he said to Prabhupada, "Put your seatbelt on." And Prabhupada said something like, "Krishna's my seatbelt." He remembered that, he told me that story. So Prabhupada got there, and I happened to be in the garden. Just, I don't know if you can say this on tape, but most of the people walked around with no clothing on or anything like that up there. I happened to be in a garden when Prabhupada arrived. I was digging potatoes in the garden there. And Lou Gottlieb brought him over, and there I was, and shook Prabhupada's hand. I was standing there, and Prabhupada did say, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm digging potatoes." He said, "No, what are you doing with your life?" And I don't even remember what I said. I do remember what he said, but I don't remember what I answered there. And then everybody went, and Prabhupada went up to the hill there and chanted. And the thing about, after Prabhupada left there, every evening all the people who were living there used to gather together for a common meal. And we'd all stand around holding hands, and we'd just stay there, with eyes closed, not doing anything, But that very evening, in that meal, not only everybody started chanting Hare Krishna. And that became one of the things there. On that farm, there were many other, at the time, Vishnu John lived there, Tamal Krishna lived there, Madhavisa, so many people became devotees off of that farm because of Srila Prabhupada's visit there, and the enthusiasm for the chanting and so forth.
Hare Krishna. That Prabhupada's quality of just seeing, relating with people I love that Garuda brought up the perfect gentleman also, because that's part of our series is
That's the
the
name.
perfect gentleman. And that's one of those qualities of being a friend to a perfect gentleman is always friendly to everyone. And they feel that friendship. But then when we hear Gorhari talking about the friendship is not just on the surface, it's friend to the soul. That's the most important.
Right.
And yet those individuals who heard good morning from Srila Prabhupada, that was, had another power, also to hear good morning and to see Srila Prabhupada and to feel, isn't that there's something where if someone feels friendly or favorable towards a devotee, that gives them spiritual development. So
Absolutely. Right.
Prabhupada's way.
Yeah. Now let's listen to these 5 stories from devotees that tell us about Prabhupada's being friendly towards them individually. And we're going to start with Chaya Devi.
The next time I think right in time sequence after that would have been when I was in the San Francisco temple as a brahmacharini. And Prabhupada would come to visit the San Francisco temple. But for some reason, I don't think there was a proper housing, room for him in the temple. But there was a couple who lived outside the temple in Berkeley, I believe, actually. And they had a very nice apartment, very nice place. And they would host Prabhupada there. And we would go there to clean up and do, chores for them and for Prabhupada while he was there. And then, so Prabhupada was having a little gathering. It was like, there was some GBC there, there was, it was like, the temple president, all this and that. And I was still there because I had cleaned up his bathroom for him with another friend. We did this together, but I was still there. I didn't get the ride back. So since they were all important people in the room with Prabhupada, I didn't feel that I could go in. So I kind of sat in the hallway, and there was where all the shoes were. So I even sat on the shoes because, and because there was so many. And I, was kind of, and Prabhupada was sitting again, just as far as you are for me. And then he started chanting, playing Mridanga, and he had his dhoti hiked up. He didn't no shirt, and he was just chanting. And everyone was chanting with him, and then he was done. He looked up, and he looked into where I was, and he said, and I'm looking like, and I looked behind myself, and I thought, oh gosh. I said, and I looked in the room, and it's all these, men, and they're all got important positions. And I'm thinking, I can't do this, So I just moved a little closer into the hallway and sat more on a lot of shoes. But, he just kept looking, he said, and again he said, but I just, there was no room. And nobody understood, But I was really surprised, that he would notice me back there. And, he didn't see really the difference. He didn't see the difference.
So one time, when Prabhupada was here in the manor at that time, people would go on the morning walks. And one morning I was going to go on the morning walk, and it was raining, and I hadn't actually put a coat or shoes on. I was little, I'm going on the morning walk with Prabhupada. So Prabhupada came down the stairs, and I was waiting in the manor, in the temple room. Prabhupada came by, and when he stood by me, how he knew I was going on the morning walk, he stood right in front of me with his face like this to mine, and he said, "You are going on the morning walk?" And I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And he said, "You are not properly dressed." So I was amazed by that. It just made me realize how he came with such a big mission for the whole world, but still, even on the small, seemingly small things, he was so not just caring, but he noticed everything about everyone. And then he gave personally, you know, so, yeah.
My daughter must have been like 5 years old or something like that, you know, and by then she was in a Gurukula, and we had brought bangles back. We had brought bangles back for her, and she was wearing these bangles, you know. And then he saw my daughter, and he said, "Oh," he says, "so the girls in your country, they like these too?" And she said yes, and she was showing all the bangles. And he said, "Well," he said, "you should marry her to a Kshatriya." Then one of the teachers said to my daughter, "You chant a Bhagavad Gita verse?" And she could chant a lot of them, you know. So I forgot what the verse was or the verses, but she chanted a couple of verses in Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada looked up, his eyes got big, said, "Better make it a Brahmana." It's such a good sense of humor, you know. It was so funny. It was just everybody was cracking up, you know.
When I got, the only thing was when I got initiated, he asked me, you know, what are the 4 regulative principles and how many rounds do you chant, will you chant? And I told him the 4 regulative principles, and then I told him I would chant 16 rounds. And then he said, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." And then he started laughing. And he said, "I'm asking you if you're insured, because you have a spot on your face. I have a mole on my face here, and when I was younger it was darker." And he said, "You have a spot on your face, and once there was a movie star with a spot on her face, and she had it insured for a lot of money." And then he just started laughing, and everyone was laughing. He was just chuckling, and then he said, "Krishna consciousness is your only insurance."
So then in LA, I had my second initiation from Prabhupada. There were just 2 of us brahmacharis who were initiated, one on either side of Srila Prabhupada's Vyasasan in the old temple room. And we heard the mantra from Prabhupada and were initiated. Later in the day, I went up to Prabhupada's room, and from my perspective, coming from Canada, I was hot, you know, in LA. So in those days, in summer heat, we sometimes would dress in, what's the name of that when it's crossed across here, the cloth? It's got a particular name, but I think probably sannyasis have it only these days, but quite often we would wear just that, you know, without the kurta. So I was sitting there in the window seat with the window open and having darshan, listening to Prabhupada. Govinda Dasi was there, and she had a new sweater for Prabhupada. She had knitted, wool sweater, which she presented to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada changed right there on the spot, sitting behind his table. And then the conversation went on, and Prabhupada was, then Prabhupada looked at me and said, "Are you cold?" And I didn't pick up on this straight away, but he was playing with me, and I said, "No, Prabhupada, I'm fine. I'm from Canada." I was thinking, you know, this is fine for me, but I didn't get it straight away. But he said, "Are you sure?" He gave me a second chance, and I said, "Oh, yes, now I am cold." So I received Prabhupada's old ex-jumper sweater.
Hari, Hari Bol. So many different elements of friendship are described in that. The humorous relationship, the giving, very nice. It's only friends that can have jokes with you.
Exactly. Very personal.
Very personal.
So that's a great aspect and a quality that we need to remember that Prabhupada is a person. And he was
Yes, yes.
not
And
only
we
the
love
heavy
it.
teacher, but personal and friendly and warm and humorous.
Yeah.
So we're going to finish up with a story from Kishore that we heard once before,
Mm.
where Prabhupada exhibited the friendly nature to a child. So we'll talk about that on the other side, and now we'll listen to Kishore.
We're at the Bhaktivedanta Manor in 1973. And I'm in Prabhupada's room, his darshan room, which is upstairs. It's a beautiful big room, large room, and it's packed. And today, so far as I can remember, it's full of people from different religious denominations. At that time, Shyam Sundar had been inviting different people to come in and meet with Prabhupada. And today it was the interfaith almost, you know. So leaders of different spiritual denominations, religious denominations had come to see who is this person, who is this Swami, the leader of this Hare Krishna group. So it was full of devotees and all these people. And Prabhupada was speaking away, explaining Krishna consciousness. And I'm standing somehow or other just next to Prabhupada, possibly because there's nowhere else to sit. And I've moved to the only place left, and it happens to be just behind Prabhupada. Now, the door slowly opens, and in walks a little 5-year-old boy, Premananda, who happens to be my stepson. I've recently married, and so he's my little stepson. And little Premananda happens to be dressed from head to toe in a sannyasi outfit with a little danda. And I think, what's his mother doing? What is she thinking about? And Prabhupada stops speaking and looks over, and his face turns into a smile from ear to ear. He says, Maharaj, like this, and his eyes open wide like this. He says, welcome, come. So little Premananda, somehow or other, he starts to clamber over all the people sitting in the room. He's just literally climbing over people to come forward to sit before Srila Prabhupada, who's at his table, and Prabhupada's just beaming at him, as though here comes the sannyasi from his travels, he's returned. And so he sits before Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's just smiling and addressing him, Maharaj. What is your name? Premananda. Premananda Maharaj. He says, take. And he offers him a sweet from there's a tray of sweet balls on the table. And so Premananda, he's sitting there, he puts one, and Prabhupada's just enjoying watching him eating the sweet and the sannyasi with the danda. I think he took another one, a second one as well, and Prabhupada's just enjoying seeing Premananda. And then he continues to address. Now the first thing I remember about all this is that when Prabhupada saw Premananda, his whole countenance changed. He was serious and stern one moment, and when Premananda walked into the room, Prabhupada almost became as a child, as Premananda. It was like two children in the moment. I could literally see a change. Prabhupada transformed into a child and then again transformed into the spiritual master and continued explaining to his audience about Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. Being able to be a friend at every level, even to the small child. I mean, just, yeah, that's so nice. And I'm sure there are many, many more stories
Oh,
of
yeah.
Srila Prabhupada's friendship with children.
Oh, absolutely. was
Many,
hard-
many
hard-
more.
hard to-
Saraswati,
hard
I
to pick
think,
one.
especially got a lot of that kind of mercy.
Yeah, he would, one time, he was going on a trip, and he was joking with her and said, Well, why don't you come with me? I'll put you in a suitcase. I'll put you in the suitcase. And
Yes.
she's like, no, what? No. She didn't catch the humor, but Prabhupada was
Yeah.
playing with her.
I just heard today, I think it was, from one devotee who was describing how the cookies started in LA. You know, that someone baked some cookies and offered them, and then Prabhupada just started calling the children, and then he said, "Let's do this every day."
Yeah, that
That
was
became
Saha
such
Devi
a-
started that.
Yeah, such a wonderful, wonderful thing that those children remember to this day.
Right. So next Ekadashi will be number 25. He is
Okay.
expert.
Expert
So-
Daksha.
So we'll hope to
Yeah.
see you in 2 weeks.
Like, subscribe, and come back. Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Siddhartha Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Prabhupada.
Jai Prabhupada.